Hey everybody, my name is Josh, joshhallmusic.com. This is Shavasana Kitty YouTube channel, and today I am going to walk you through a C major chord scale using the D, G, and B strings with the root on the B string. And I'm just going to start with, here is the path. So um, however you're going to want to do this, we're going to start on C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, B diminished, and C. So go ahead and take a screenshot of that because we're going to be using it throughout. So here we go. Let's stop the share. All right. Now, if you're a newsletter subscriber, you already have that sheet. You could have downloaded it and you could have printed it, or you could have it as a screenshot or whatever it is you want to do. But here is here's the pattern. So you've got a C major chord, and our root is on the B string, so that's the note C. Our next chord is D minor. Next chord after that is E minor, and then F, and then G, A minor, B diminished, and then C. And I'll go backwards. So C, B diminished, A minor, G, F, E minor, D minor, C. So, a couple of things. First, there are different things that we practice for, and some people will make their goal fast. I just want to be able to play it fast. And other people might have a goal of, I'm just trying to learn to play this song. Everything that you're showing me right now isn't going to help me learn to play that song. So I'm going to go watch a video that teaches me how to play a song. And that's cool. My purpose of doing these exercises is to be able to play smooth and beautifully. And so sometimes that might mean that it's fast, but I want it to be smooth and beautiful, even if it's fast. And so it is important that whatever fingering you choose to start with, that you make good decisions about why you're using that fingering. And so here is the fingering I use for this particular scale pattern. And so I start with C, and I use my middle finger and my index finger to play the notes. My next chord, the D minor, I'm going to use my ring finger, my middle finger, and my pinky. Why do this? Because this is very smooth. I really only have to move the middle finger down a string. Everything else just gets placed. I don't actually need to pick up this finger. I do, because I don't want the friction that finger will create. So, but if I was going back to it, if I was going D minor, C to D minor like that, I wouldn't pick it up. But if I'm going to E minor, I'm going to slide. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I don't want the friction that this finger being on this string will create. It's faster to have it up. Just a little, just enough. I'm not lifting it up like a mile, but I'm picking it up. Okay? It's ready to play. What's it ready to play? The next chord is F. So I slide my third finger up and I swap and I place my index here and my middle here. So let's look at that move again. Here's E minor, and I'm going to slide and place. So my pinky lifted, it's not playing anything, and I'm sliding. The same shape is used for G, so all I need to do is slide my hand. There's a little bit of lift, but my fingers don't lift off the strings, they just lift off, so there's no pressure from the frets. So instead of doing this, I'm going, and there's a slight lift. This does a couple of things. When you're playing, if you can pick your hand up, but not leave the strings, you give your hand a chance to rest. It's micro resting. Okay, so you can play for a very long period of time without fatigue. Okay, next move from G to A minor. My third finger slides up, my pinky comes down, and my middle finger comes down. That's the move. The next move, A minor to B diminished, my ring finger stays on that D string. My pinky is playing the note B and my index is playing F. So this is a more natural distance for my hand to be in. When I was at A minor, there was a natural space that my index finger would fall on. When I slide up, look at that. I don't have to change where these two fingers are. They're still in the same relative position, but my index finger is taking that space. Very cool. I slide up, and the space between my third finger and my index stayed the same, and I just put my middle finger down. So it becomes fairly quick. Fairly quick. All right. Now remember, if your goal is speed, then yeah, you might want to practice doing, like, I don't know, triplets or something. And you might want to blast up and down as fast as I suppose you can go cleanly. There's no reason to go super fast unless that's the piece you're playing. Otherwise, the goal here is really to play fluidly and cleanly. And you practice going up and down with that same fingering. Now you might be in the camp that says, I don't like using my pinky. And there is definitely a camp of people that don't like using their pinky. All right. If that's the case, then your fingering isn't going to necessarily be different. You're going to probably keep your middle finger up and do that and like that. And this is a fine fingering. There will be people who will swear by this and say that's what they use. That's fine. You can totally do that. I think it's slower and I think it's clumsy. So I don't use it. It's not going to be the fingering I choose unless there's a reason, meaning that what comes before and what comes after a particular chord necessitates that I use that fingering. Most of the time, this is not going to be how I play those shapes. But if I want to add, then I might, because I want to have access to my pinky. And if I'm like this, then I can't access that move as easily, right? And so there's an argument for, well, maybe that's why maybe that's why. All right. But to start with, pick a fingering, stick with it, get good at it. By getting good at it, I mean you don't really have to think about it too much. Once you've mastered going up and down, just doing that, then it's time to do other exercises. Now, when we play scales, it's very common for a guitar player or a flute player or a saxophonist or something to play, like, instead of doing, a straight up the neck like that, they might go thirds. And I think that that's totally reasonable to do with chord scales. And so you do like C to E minor, to D minor, to F, to E minor, to G, to F, to A minor, to G, to B diminished, to A minor, to C, and maybe if you've got enough frets, you would do B diminished, D minor, to C. And and then you do that backwards. So C, and this little pattern is totally worth practicing. Okay, it will give you a fluidity in your hands that allow you to play anything smoothly. And that, I think, is a reasonable goal, right? Smoothly and beautifully. After you've done that, the thirds, right, up and back and forth like that, you might do do it in like a cycle 4. So you'd start on C, your next chord would be F, your next chord would be B diminished, your next chord would be E minor, and then you go to A minor, and then you go to D minor, then you go to G, and then you have your choices. You could go C or you could go C. And either one of those would be fine. And that's excellent to practice, having a cycle 4 type thing like that, and be able to move between them. And you might work towards speed that way. I would think it would be wiser to work towards fluid at whatever speed that becomes comfortable at. That's where you're at, right? You can certainly try to, speed things up and go from there, but it's not like you're trying to play a song that is fast. You're just trying to get your hands comfortable with a particular mode of transportation, which in this particular case happens to be a major chord scale. All right, so after you've done that, maybe you improvise on it. So you could do the thing that I like to do a lot, which is up one, down another, where you pick up and then you go down the next chord, up the next chord, down the next chord, up. I've talked about this a lot in my videos. Okay, these are really excellent little practices. You may also just pick a picking pattern. You might just do something like that. And it doesn't matter what the picking pattern is, because your goal is beautiful and smooth, not a particular song. Once you've got beautiful and smooth, the song will take care of itself. If you're trying to play you will be beautiful and smooth. And if you need it to be less choppy, you don't want that much, you can have it. And because you have practiced those shapes, you've practiced holding them, you've practiced bouncing through them, you've practiced the same fingering so that your hands aren't inventing a fingering every time you're playing, but you're falling into a repeated pattern that is like driving a road you're familiar with. Okay, so try that. The next step, of course, is to pick a chord progression or pick a song. I'm going to have a little cycle 4 jazz long tones. This is 80 beats per minute. And this is coming out, and I'm just going to improvise over that. And I'm going to use just those 3 strings. Here we go. So, iReal Pro and things like that are fabulous practice tools to just make some kind of sense out of these like sort of technical things that you're working on, and then turn them into some kind of music. All right, so that it doesn't just be a list of technical things you've done. The reason to practice technically is that it allows your hands to be able to do all kinds of things in whatever situation you find yourself in. And for me, when I was a younger guitar player, I ended up finding myself in all kinds of strange situations where I might be playing a wedding one week and I might be playing in a classic rock band the next, and in the pit of some musical the week after that. And it is just useful to be able to cover lots of different kinds of styles, because music is music is music. And if you understand the technical needs of the various music you're playing, then you're all set. So anyway, if you found this useful, like, comment, subscribe. Maybe you like my newsletters, joshhallmusic.com, and we will see you next time. Have a good one. Bye-bye.